Hello everyone. So in this project our main focus will be data manipulation and visualization using Python, as you can see by the title. It's a project provided for us interns in the virtual internship program by NAI. In this project there are mainly three parts, as you can see. The first part is data manipulation using pandas, and the second part is the data visualization using matplotlib, the main or the most used plotting library in Python, graph plotting library. And the third part is the data manipulation and analysis on Python, and it's basically a guided assessment. So let's jump into it. To make our code more easy to understand, or whenever anyone sees our code, we have to make them understand what we wanted to do. So comments are one of the most important things in case of coding. So how to add a comment in a code in Python? We can simply use commenting by simply putting the hashtag before a line, or in case of a larger code, it's not visible that we select each line and put a hashtag in front of it. So what we can do is uh, select the whole code and control plus front slash. That will comment out the whole code. And now if I run the cell, if it won't run because it's a code cell, it's a comment basically. So now straight into the main topic. First we have to work with the pandas library. So what is the pandas library? Pandas library helps us to analyze and manipulate the data in different ways to so that we can work easily with our data. So how to import it? Simply we have to write import and pandas, the name of the library. Now you can write simply just import pandas, but what it will do, the main problem will be each time you have to refer to the library, you have to write the name pandas fully. You have to write pandas full. But instead we have written import pandas as PD. This PD is an alias. So basically a shortcut that we are using to refer to the library. So import pandas as PD, that is import the library as the alias name. So we are running the code cell and the library is imported. Now we have to load the data set or the data frame that we want to work on. So there are two ways. Now we are working in the Google Colab, that's also a Python notebook. But in case of Google Colab, we have to mainly two ways. Number one is we have to mount our Google Drive to Google Colab, and then we have to upload the dataset to our Google Drive and directly import from there by the path, or we can directly upload from our device. So we are using from Google Colab, google.colab, import files, uploading the file using files.upload function. So let's run it. Here we can see that our an upload option is given to us. So let's choose the file. uh, we are first working with the Briggs dataset, so let's open it, and it's uploaded. Now it's the continuation to the previous code cell. The IO module provides Python's main facilities for dealing with various types of input output. There are three main types, that is text IO, binary IO, and raw IO. Now we are saving the imported Briggs data, uploaded Briggs dataset. We are reading it using the pd.readcsv, that is panda.readcsv function. This function helps us to read the data from a CSV file, that is comma separated values. In a comma separated value file, the all the values, columns, everything are separated by commas. So we are using import IO, the IO library, and we are storing the data frame that we uploaded, that is bricks.csv, into the bricks data frame. We have named another the same bricks data frame using pd.readcsv function. Now let's run the code. So as we can see that the code is uploaded, then we have read it and saved it. Now we have run the data frame, we have tried to print the data frame. So here is the data frame. Now the next thing is, what's the difference between normally writing bricks and trying to print it, and trying to print and trying to use the print function to print it. So in case of the print function, as we can see that here is the difference. As you can see that it is like it is very well arranged and well displayed, whereas it is just raw formatted. Now if the data is uploaded on Jupyter notebook, is saved in the same location where the Python notebook is, or in any case, like if you are working on a Jupyter notebook from your local device and you want to use the dataset, you have to simply give the pt.read csv, and within the quotation you have to give the path along with the file name. If the data is local or system disk, you have like this. Now the next part, the data type of any variables or data frame, the present variables in a data frame can be seen by using the type function. So let's run it. We have used the print function to type it. So as we can see, 5 is an integer number, so it is giving class integer. A text here is a string, so it is giving string. True is basically a boolean, so it is giving boolean. And bricks here, our data frame, so it is returning pandas.core.frame.data frame. Now when we are working with our data frame, the very first thing is we have to explore our data. That is what are the different components of the data frame that we have, what are the data types, if there are any null values or any exceptional values or outliers, etc, etc. So the info function gives us the basic information that we need about the data frame. So we are trying to apply it, bricks.info. Let's run it. Here class pandas core.data frame, as we have seen before, we have 5 entries here, 1 2 3 4 5. Now we have 4 columns, to total 5 columns, and the main data types are int 64 bit integer and object. So let's count the values. Value counts function returns the object containing counts of unique values. The resulting object will be in descending order, so that the first element is the most frequent occurring element. It always excludes the not available values. So let's use the function. We are exploring the data using the value count, so we can see the objects containing counts of unique values. When the data set is very much large, we want to sort it by ascending or descending order as per our need. So by default, the sort values function helps us to do it. And the sort in case anything is not mentioned, like the sorting order, ascending or descending, it takes ascending by default. So when I apply it, it is sorting by ascending order by default, like BRCHINRUSA. And we can also separately specify ascending is equal to 2, that will give us the same output. But if we want a descending order, then we can write bricks.sort value ascending is equal to false. Now we are sorting the data here, but does it affect the main data set? Let's see. If you print the main data frame now, it doesn't affect the main data frame anyhow, because we are not applying or assigning the value directly to the original dataset. If we have written bricks is equal to bricks dot and this code, then it would have changed the main data frame or affected the main data frame. That is, as we can observe, it doesn't affect dataset until and unless we assign it to the original dataset. Now sort the data, we have to sort the data to see which country has largest population. So this is all part of basic data exploration. So we are sorting the values by the column population, and we have set ascending is equal to false, so that the largest value will come at the top. So as we can see that China has the largest population of 1357 million, probably the units are in million. Therefore, China has the largest population, and we have to find out which country is the smallest in size. So we are sorting the values by area, and as by default the order is ascending, so we are not writing it separately. Let's run it. As we can see, South Africa has the smallest area of all of them. Now there are some basic operational techniques that will help us ahead, that is sorting and printing just one column. Like if we want separately any one column of or from the data set, we can use this. So we are writing the data frame name dot the column name dot sort. If we want to sort values or don't want to, that's up to us. So we got the country column separately. Now we have been told to sort and print the area column from largest to smallest, that is the order will be descending, so the ascending argument will be false. Therefore we are adding bricks the data frame dot area dot sort values, and the argument ascending is equal to false. Running the code cell, and we are getting that in descending order. Now we have to see indexing. Indexing in data frames is one of the most important things. Notice that whenever we print a data frame, we are getting a column with number 0 1 2, like these numbers, and this column. This is the index column, and index column indicates the position or row of records. So if in case we want to fetch a certain record, we can refer through the index. Now if our data contains column with unique values such as student id, employee id, order id, we can make that specific column as our index column. So like that we can use the code as the index column here, because it is indicating to different countries and their different parameters. In this case we can make the code column or even country column as index column. So let's run. Indices can be used to fetch data from a particular row. So let's fetch the data from the row number second row, that is the index will be 1, that is Russia. We are getting the country name from the second column, that is Russia. Now getting the single column from a data, so how to get a single column from a data, we have seen a way before, but this is also a way. Like we have to use the print function and write the data frame name, and inside braces we have to write the column name within quotes, and we get the certain column. Now we have to print the area column from bricks data frame. So like this we can just change the country to area, and we will get our desired output, and we are getting the area column here. There is another way to single out a column from a data frame, that is the dot operator that we have used before. Here bricks that is data frame dot column name, and we will get the output. Now we have to print the code column from the data frame using the dot operator, so nothing difficult. Now we have to print the multiple columns. Now in case of multiple columns, we have to do what? We have to specify the data frame name, and inside braces we have to give another pair of braces, and inside that pair of braces we have to write the multiple column names that we want as output. So here we want a country and capital column, so we have written brace, and inside that another pair of brace, and then country and capital the column names, and we are getting the multiple columns as output. So now we have to do it like print country, capital and population. We have to print those three. So we are doing it like before, and we get the desired output. Now we have to use column 0 as an index. That means that the column 0 is our code column, that is the country code columns. This will remove the first column containing the index or serial numbers, that is the 0 1 2 or integers, and make the first column, that is the code column from actual data, as the index. So we are reading the data again in the bricks data frame, and let's run it. We are writing index column 0, that is the index of that is the column number 0 will be the index column. And now we can see that there is no case of serial number being the indexes like 0 1 2 3. We are getting the country codes as the indexes. Now one of the most important things in data frame operations, that is the transformation of a data frame. So let's first see how to add a new column to an existing data frame. So suppose we want to see that if all of the countries in the data frame are present on earth or not, like yeah, you can understand. So we have written the data frame name and the new column name here, and in form of a list we have given the different entries or different values for the different countries, that is different rows. So let's run it, and now we can see there is another column except from the original columns, that is the on earth column that specifies if the countries are present on earth or not. It's a bit silly, but whatever serves the purpose. Now adding a calculated column, this is a very simple column that we are using that we are giving manually and adding it. Now what if we want to insert a column that uses any other two columns to calculate its values? So like before, we have to specify the data frame and the new column name. Now we are calculating here the density. So what will be the formula of density? The population by area into 1 million, that is per square kilometers. So the formula will be Brix density, that is the data frame and the new column name, is equal to Brix and the referring to the population column divided by Brix and referring to the area column into. So now if we run the code cell, we get the density column here. Removing the additional decimal points or setting the precision can be done on the entire data frame. Like we can set like how after decimal how many digits will be there by in the entire data frame if we want to. That is customizable. So how we can do that? We can do that by specifying the data frame name dot style, because it's a styling option, and set precision to, that is up to 2 decimal points for all float columns in the data frame. This won't change the original data frame, that is the original data frame will still have the multiple digits after decimals. So if we run this, we can see that from 23.485847 blah blah blah, we get a rounded up value, that is 23.49. So we can specify the number the digits after the decimal point like this by setting the precision by using the set precision function, or we can use another way, that is we can round individual columns to fixed decimal points by using the round function, that is Brix that is we are using the referring to the column name that we want to round up the value to, and we are using the dot round function, and we are entering the number up to the how much decimal we want to round the number up to, and here we are entering 2. So from 23.4858 we are getting again 23.49. Now if we want to do operations in depth on a data frame, we have to use different indices and location functions to fetch data and locate data and so on. To note some of the important things, dot lock, that is the dot lock function, is used with actual value or label of the index. Like we can use the index here like br or actual any label in case of dot lock, but in case of ilock we have to refer the index position or reference, which are numbers 0 1 2 3 4 or a certain range. So we are at first referring to the Brix dataset that we have fetched and done previous operations on. Now we are using the lock function with we are referring to a certain column with the help of an index, that is the SA, that is the index for South Africa. So let's run it, and we get the corresponding values for the for that particular record that is denoted by the index SA. Now if we want to denote if we want to fetch the same data using ilock function, what we have to do, we have to refer to it by numerical index. So what will be the numerical index? It will be 0, it will be 1, it will be 2, it will be 3, and this will be 4. So in case of ilock function we will write brix.ilock and 4, and in the same way we will get the data for South Africa here. Now what we have to do, we have to use dot lock function that to print the values from all columns for India. Okay, so what is the index for India? That is IN. So we will use the bricks.lock and the index name, that is IN, and we will get all of the values for all the columns for India. Now we have to use the iLock to print all the values from all the columns from the third row. And another thing to keep in mind, the index number will always be one less than the row number. We have to print the third row, that is the index number will be 2. What is in the second index? 0 1 2, that is India again. So let's use it, bricks.ilock and index number 2, and we will get the value for India again. Now we have previously added different columns in the data frame, but how about adding rows? Let's see. Adding a new row uses append function. That now let's see. Yeah, so let's specify a new row, that is code or the index column will be WK, country will be Wakanda from Marvel, population will be 5, area will be this value, and capital will be Wakanda City, on earth false danger. So basically we are specifying a dictionary with all the keys and values. The keys will be the column names and the values will be the corresponding values. Defining another data frame, that is bricks1. We don't want to tamper with the main data frame. So let's bricks1 is equal to bricks.append, that is these values will be appended, that is the new row values will be appended in with the bricks, the main bricks data frame, that is the and we are ignoring in index, that is the serial number index 012 as true, so that we can get this code column as the index column. Why there is nan for code in other rows? Because the previous code was not part of a data table, it was an index with code in new row. We are adding a new column called code. Ignore index is equal to false will here ignore index is equal to false will result into error, because new row is a dictionary, and appending a dictionary into a data frame will not work if we do not ignore the index. Now let's print the new bricks1 data frame. So what we will get as output, so this will be our output, and we can see that here at last we have another new entry, that is another new row for Wakanda. Now adding a new row using dot lock. This operation can also be done in this way, like we are specifying the a new index using the bricks.lock function of using WK, and we are entering the corresponding values into the dictionary, and we are printing the data frame, that is bricks. Now we have to add a new row in the data frame using dot lock any other country with some values in all columns. So let's take Germany for example. So in this way we can do here is bricks.lock DE, that is the international country code for Germany, Deutschland, and we are entering the values corresponding to the different columns, and here we are running the code, and we can see that the column the row for Germany is also added here. Those of you or those of us who have used Excel sheets, there we can indicate a particular record with the corresponding row and column index, like A2 means the column with the index A, and the row with the row in the second or in the second row or the second index. So in the same way we can refer to a certain record or certain value in a pandas data frame too, like bricks.lock, and we are specifying the row index and the column index, that is in for India and capital, the capital column, and we are getting the output New Delhi. Now we can also refer to in this way, like bricks and capital, that is directly referring to the capital column, and using the dot lock function to refer the row with the index number IN, that is for India. So we will get the same output here also, that is New Delhi. And there is another way we can apply it too, that is basically breaking up the first way, that is this one, like bricks.lock, and we are breaking up into in a 2D array format, like in for the index and capital for the capital column. Now we have added the rows and columns. How about now we delete it? So we use drop function to delete certain number of rows or columns if we want. So let's load the bricks data frame into bricks 1 data frame now, so that we don't tamper the original data frame, and let's run it. Now if we want to drop the area column, that is this one, what should we do? We should write the data frame name dot drop the column name, and we are specifying the axis equal to 1 here. If we do not specify any axis, or axis is equal to 0, it will drop a row, but it won't drop a column. If we want to drop a column, we have to specify axis is equal to 1. And as we can see the difference between these two, here the area column is present and here it is not present. And again we are loading the bricks data frame to get back to the original data frame. Now we want to drop two columns, that is density, area and density. So we are specifying the column names, that is area and density, and again we are specifying axis equal to 1 for the column, and we are getting the output that area and density columns are not present here. So now we have to delete the record for Wakanda, that is this column, using its index WK. So what should we do? Here we should do, that is we have to delete a record, a row. So we will specify the axis as 0 for rows, and we will specify the index, that is bricks dot drop, and we are specifying the index of the row and specifying axis is equal to 0 for the particular row. And here we can see that the record for Wakanda is removed. Now we are referring to the original data frame again, and now we are dropping the columns area and density once again, but here we have applied another way, that is data frame dot drop, and inside the brackets we have specified columns is equal to, inside a dictionary, that is area and density, inside a list, that is area and density, my fault. Inside we have specified inside the list area and density the column names, and here we can see that the density and area columns are once again dropped. Now what if we want to drop rows by index? So we are referring to the original data frame again, and we are using drop with index IN and CH, that is for India and for China, the rows. And we are not specifying any axis because by default it's 0, so it will remove the rows, it will drop the rows. So let's run it, and as we can see the records for India and China have been dropped. Okay, now there is a function called shape. Shape function helps us to find the shape or size of an array or matrix. Shape 0 means we are working along the first dimension of the array. If y has n rows and m columns, then y dot shape will return n comma m. And so y dot shape of 0, that is shape of the rows, will be n. So for what we are doing, we are declaring a for loop here, that is for index in range bricks dot shape 0, that is bricks data frame, and the first that is bricks dot shape 0, that is okay, cut. So what we are doing here, we are declaring a for loop for index in range bricks dot shape 0, and we are country name is equal to bricks dot iloc index comma 0, that is row of index column 0. City name is equal to bricks dot iloc index comma 3, that is row of index column 3, that is here country name row index comma 0, and the city name, that is the number 3, 0 1 to 3, that is this index. Print the capital city, the comma country name, that will print the country name is, and the city name, that will print the capital city. So if we run it, we will get the capital city of Brazil is Brasilia, and so on. Brazil for Brasilia, Russia is Moscow, the capital city of India is New Delhi, etc, etc. For in another way we can do it, that is for index in range bricks dot shape 0, that is the condition for the for loop will be same, but in the print statement we will specify the capital city of, and directly we are referring to the column indexes here, iloc index comma 0 index comma 3, and if we run it, we will get the same output here. And there's also another way, that is we are using iter rows function, that is iterate over the rows. It will iterate over the rows, that is for index comma row in bricks dot iter rows, the capital city of row, that will be the country, is row, that will be the capital, and it will iterate over each row while printing the country and the capital. And if we run it, we will get the same output overall again. Now, in case of importing a data frame from an URL, we can simply refer directly to the link and the data set there, and copy and paste its URL, and using pd.readcsv in a variable we can store that URL, and using pd.readcsv, that function, we can refer to that variable and we can read that. But here we are not using that because there is no need right now. So now we are going to do operations on another data frame, that is the cars data frame. So let's upload it. So it's been uploaded, and like previously we have used the IO bytes IO function to store it in the uploaded data frame into the cars data frame, and we are running this so that we can we can see the cars data frame overall. Notice that there is an unnamed column, that is this one. It is because the column name is not given in the original dataset for this column, for the first column. We will make the correction for that. Let's use the head function that will give us the first 5 rows at output. In case we want to print the top 7 rows, we have to just specify the number of rows we want inside the braces of the head inside the brackets of the head function, and here it returns us the 7 values. And for you, in the same way, if we use the tail function, we will by default get the last 5 rows, and if we specify any particular argument, and we will get those numbers rows from last. Now we are going to give a name to the particular unnamed column, that is we are first printing the cars data frame so that we can compare it after the change. We are doing cars.rename columns unnamed 0 to code. So we are renaming the unnamed 0 column to code. In place is equal to false at first, so that it won't affect the first it won't affect the data frame permanently, just temporarily. And we are storing it in df1, and we are doing cars.rename columns unnamed 0 to unnamed 0 column to code. In place is equal to true, that is it will change the original data frame and change the name of the unnamed column to code, and we are printing the df1 and the cars. So let's run it, and we can see that at first we have print the cars data frame, so there it was unnamed 0. Then we have print the df1 where in place is equal to false, that is it changes the column name temporarily. So we can see that there the name is changed to code, and then we have changed the original data frame, change the column name in the original data frame to code, and here we can see the expected output. Now let's print cars per capita without column name at the top. So if we want to print without column at the top, we can just run it like this, and we are printing the actual data with the column name in the top, that so we can run it like this. And to do now we have to do that, read the data again and set the first column as the index column, that is the code, and print the card data frame. So we are specifying the data frame dot set index and specifying the column name, that will be the index, at using in place is equal to true, so that it will affect the original data frame. And now if we run it, we get the code column as the index column. Now we are printing the details of the column of the record with the index ru. So let's run it like previously we have done with the dot lock. And if we want to change the above to show that all the column names are on the top, we can just specify it like this, and it will give us the desired column names on the top according along with the values. And to print all the details from RU and OUS from the cars data frame, we are doing it once again like this, and it gives us the output. Print the cars per capita for India. So we are specifying the row index as India and the column as cars per capita, and we are running it. and we are getting the cars per capita for India. Now print the cars per capita for India and Russia both. So we are specifying the multiple row indexes and the single column that we want, and we are running it and we get this. Now we want the cars per capita and country name for India and Russia. So we are specifying the multiple indexes and multiple column names, and we are running it and we get the expected output. Now we are going to work with advanced pandas and matplotlib. Matplotlib is basically the one of the most used graph plotting libraries or visualization libraries in Python. So we are uploading another dataset that we want to work on, that is the marks dataset. So where the mark dataset here? Okay, let's upload it, and we are loading it into the saving it into the marks data frame and printing the marks data frame, and the data frame is like this. Now if we are working on normal Jupyter notebook in our local machine, we can load the data set like this. So let's see what the shape of the data frame is. So here we can see that it has 20 rows and 7 columns, that is 7 features and 20 records. And now use the info function to get the basic info. This will give us the information and the structure of the data with non-null values, and we are printing the different data types of the different features given, that is we can see student ID and student name are of object type and the rest are of float type. Now let's print the different data type separately, and we get this like before. Now there are two things, that is display function and print function. Print function we have used before to print different things, but we have not used display till now. What is the display function and what is the difference of it with print? But before we see the differences, one thing we can say that useful display function is very much useful in case of advanced Python, and especially when you can display images, because especially you can display images, not print them. When working on a data frame, we should prefer to use the display function. So let's print the marks data frame at first, and we can see this, and print the print the data frame using the display function, and we can clearly see the results, what is the difference and what not. And we are printing the marks data frame normally, so we can see that there is not much difference between display function and printing using display function and normally printing it. But there is a huge difference between the print function and the display function. Now we are using different range and multiple values and lock and iLock. So we are now a basic comparison equality operation, that is we are assigning the value of 5 to num, and if we use num is equal to 6, that is double is equal to is the comparison operator, it will return false. Now selecting marks, we have to select the marks for RIA. So we have to select by a certain column name at a certain name. So let's display it. So we are displaying function marks.lock. Marks.student name is equal to RIA, that is in the marks data frame the student name column where the record will be displayed in the where in the student name column the student name is specified as RIA. So let's run it, and we can see that we have got the expected output for that is the record for RIA. Now we have to print all the records for David, and we can do it in the same way as before, just we have to change the name of RIA to David, and we will get the value for David. Now using OR operator to print the details if the name is either RIA or David, that is we will get the output if the name is either RIA or David or both. That is display marks.lock, and we are comparing the student names, that is RIA and David, and if using the OR operator, that is this one, and we will get the output like this. We will get the record for both. Now we have to print all records in the student is either serial 05 or serial 010, that or here student ID 05 or student ID 10. So let's run it. just we are doing the same thing again, just change the column name and the value that is expected, and we are getting the expected output. So now we have to fetch all the details where marks in English is greater than 70 or marks in math is greater than 70. So we have to keep in mind what is asked of us, that if it is or and, that is we need to print either of them or both of them. And like before, we are doing it again, that is marks dot English is greater than 70 and marks dot maths is greater than 70, and we are getting these values. Now we have to apply the AND operator to get where both the marks are greater than 70. So we are just changing the OR operator to the AND operator here, and we are running the code, and we get the marks where both English and maths is greater than 70. Now we are using the NOT function to fetch all the details of all the students except for Ria. So we are just specifying the student name not equals to Ria, and if we run it, we get all the output except that we cannot get the output of Ria, that is it is not required. Index column can be changed by giving name of column that is unique and case sensitive. Could have given the index column 0 1 as well, but we are assigning as the student ID column as the index column, like before we have done. Now displaying range of indices using dot lock and ilock, that is in dot lock all values are included, and in ilock upper range is excluded, that is if we give the upper range as 10, we will get the value till 9. Now display marks dot lock 1 to 10, range of values includes all values. What we need to point out here is why the error, because in case of lock we don't use the range, we can use the range in case of ilock. So let's move on to the next code, that is in ilock is in integer index based, but lock is our value label index based. Next we are using the ilock to get the output for out of 11 indices, the last one will be excluded. ilock will not work if the indices are not integer. The output will obviously return error, because in case of ilock we need integer indexes, so it will return error again. Now we have to correct the issue, so just we have to change the ilock to lock, because the lock will take the labeled index, and we get the corresponding output. We have to data of multiple consecutive rows, selecting details of the first and fifth row, that is we can specify by the first row that is by index 0, and the fifth row that is by index 4, and if we run it, we will get the S01 and S05 records. Now we have to print the details of the 0th, 5th and 8th rows along with the indices of 4th, 11th and 16th. So let's run it, and here is the output. Dot lock can be used to fetch details from a range of index values in a sequence. So display marks dot lock, and we are specifying here a certain number of index range, and we will get the corresponding output, because here with the range works because we are specifying it, because specifying the lower and upper limit using the labels. Let's run these lines of code and see what the error is. It will return invalid syntax obviously in each one of these cases, because each of the above code gives us an invalid syntax error. In case of ilock, if we want to get values corresponding to a range of indices, the code should have been display the marks.ilock starting range and index range. There is a pair of braces extra here too. Instead we are using syntax which can be used to call values corresponding to multiple indices separately and not a range. So the correct code could have been one of the below, like we could have specified it like this, or could have specified it like this. Case of operations on a data frame, one of the most important things is that is cleaning the different the empty values, or treating them so that we do not get error in our output, or we get accurate output. So let's define a data frame. a basic data frame to work on. So we are specifying the temps data frame, that is for temperature, and we are using the sequence measurement type and measure, where we have two null values here, and we are running it. We can see the data frame here. We have to keep in mind that nan, that is nan, belongs to the class float, but the none belongs to class none type. So if we want to see the NA values, not available values, null values, we will run the isNA function, the data frame dot isNA, and we will get where the where there is null value, it will return a true, or else it will return false. Now we want to summarize the how many null values are there in which column, and we can run temp.isNA.sum, that will sum up the none values in columns. And here we can see that measurement type has one none value, that is this, and the temperature Fahrenheit has one null value, that is this. Now we want to summarize mode, that is we want to see only just the total number of null values present, not in which columns or specifically any column names or something like that. So we can use another dot sum function, and it will return the number of total null values that is present. How we can drop or delete the rows containing the missing values? So we can do it in many ways, but the most used way is the drop NA function, that will drop the null values. Here we are using a clean.temps, and we are assigning it that temps the data frame dot drop NA how is equal to any, that is it will drop rows with any null values, that is any rows that contains a null value will be dropped instantly. And we are displaying the clean temps, and here we can see that there are no null values present here at all. So we are specifying the same code here, just in case of any we are writing all, but it won't drop all the null values, because in case we are specifying how is equal to all, until and unless all the columns have the null values in a certain row, it won't drop the row. Now if we use by default the drop NA function in temps value, it will drop the null values as before. And if we drop columns where there are missing, if we want to drop columns where there are missing values, we will just use the drop NA function with axis specified as columns. And there was null values in measurement type and temperature Fahrenheit column, that those two are dropped, and only the sequence column remains here. Now we have to handling the missing values and replacing values. Not every time we should delete the missing values, especially when the dataset is smaller or when missing values are very significant. In such cases, additional data preparation is performed depending on the data set, its structure, and the research question. We should decide if the data preparation technique, what data preparation technique should be applied on what column or missing values. So we are interested to see how it will return the cumulative sum. We use the CumSum function here. It keeps, by default keeps the null values. So if we run it, we will get this, the cumulative sum of all the columns. And if we specify skip NA is equal to false, it will include the null values. Now let's say we want to fill all the null values with 0. So we will just write the data frame name dot fill NA function, that will fill the null values. Value is equal to, we will specify what value we want to replace the null values with, and in place is equal to true, again as before, if we want to change the main data frame. And if we run this, we can see that the null values that were here before are replaced by 0. Now if we print the temps data frame again, and here we can see that in case of measurement type we are getting a single integer 0, but in case of temperature Fahrenheit we are getting 0.00, that is a float value. This is because temperature F column here is given as 0.00, that is it is a float column that has 2 decimals, so the 0 becomes 0.00. Now let's define the previous temperature data frame again. Now we are going to fill the null values with the method pad, that is it will take the values from the previous row. So we are doing what here, fill using the fill and a function. Method is equal to pad, in place is equal to true, and here was the null values before, and it just copies the previous row value, that is actual, and pasted it here, and same for this here 91.61. Now let's specify another data frame, and we will use the method bfill here, that will take the next value from the next row to replace the null value. So like before, we are specifying the method bfill, and we can see that the null value is replaced with the value of the next row, that is estimated, and 49.64. Now again we can replace the null values with another way, that is the mean function, that will take the mean of the column mean of the values of the column, and insert it in the null value record. So let's run it. Fill in a temps temperature f dot mean. And one thing to remind, that the dot mean function to fill null values can only work on integer or float type. It can't work on string type. So we are doing it only on the temperature function, temperature column. Now there is a thing called a lambda function. Lambda is used to define a temporary expression without any return statement. It always contains an expression that is returned. There is no need to assign a value, that is assign a variable with lambda. So we are defining a function cube with y and returning y, and printing the cube of 5 here. Now if lambda cube is equal to lambda y into y, here what it will do, it won't require any variable. It will just take the value of y and cube it, that is let's say here it is 5, so it will do 5 into 5 into 5, and lambda will return 5, that will get stored into the lambda cube variable, and it will be returned here. So let's run it, and so we can see that this is the output. Now creating a new data frame to explore the lambda and changing indices. So let's create a new data frame. We have created a region and team, squad, revenue, cost their data frame, and we are displaying it here. Now we can use a function called apply to alter values along an axis in the data frame, or in a series or a column. So let's say we want column called profit, so we are specifying it teams, and the column name is profit, and teams dot apply lambda x, that will profit if x, that is revenue column, is greater than cost column, or else it will specify loss. Now if we print the teams data frame, it will return the profit and loss for each region and each team. So we can use the lambda function here also. Now we can use map to substitute each value in a series. So let's say we want to swap value of 1 with red and 2 with blue, and the column name now will be team color. So we can say that teams and team color, the new column name, and the teams dot team and map team map. Team map specifies what color will be assigned to the corresponding team, and if we run it now, we get red blue in place of 1 2 1 2. Now apply map method do element wise operation on the entire data frame. This applies a function that accepts and returns a scalar to every element of a data frame. Now let's say if we want to return length of each of the values in each of the records of the entire team's data frame. So we'll say teams dot apply map and lambda x, that will return the string x, that will be the value of each of the records. And if we do it, we can see that it has returned the length. North, it has 5, it is length 5. West, it is length 4 1, it is length 3. A, it is length 1. Revenue, it is length 7500, that is 4. And there is also a function called group by to group using a certain column. So if we want to group the profit grouping using different categories, or group out the data frame using a certain column, we can use it like this, group by and the column name, and we will get the output. And now we are told to group the records on cost with minimum values. So let's do it like before, that is grouping by cost column and the minimum values dot mean. Here also we can do the same case, revenue column with mean values, the column and the function mean, and we will get the output. And grouping on the basis of aggregates, that is that is different aggregation function, mean and max. And like before, we can use it like this, and this will return the output. There are also reset index, set index, and re-index, different indexing functions. So let's redefine the team's data frame again. And if we want to setting two columns as index, if we want to set two columns as index, so team re-index is equal to teams dot set index, and we are specifying which two columns we need to be, have as indexes, and we get the output. And now these two columns have been indexes, and these are denoted by the bold font here. Now in case of restructuring the data frame based on multiple indices, we can use the stack function, that is pd.data frame team underscore reindex, that is referring to this one, and it using stack function that will restructure the data frame with multiple indices, and based on north 1, and we are getting all the three values for this, and west 2, east 1, and south 2. Now how about merging the data frames? So for merging the data frames, let's first specify the two data frames, basic data frames. Now if we use group 1 dot merge with group 2, how left on number, that is it will merge all from the first table and only common values from the second table with one another. So let's run it, and there we can see that the some of the values are null or nan here. So we can use simply the merge function here, and it will only get the common values here, that is group 1 merge group 2, that will return only the common records from both the groups, both the data frames. Similarly here, how is equal to inner, show which also shows the common records only left on number, it will merge on the number column, and right on number it will also merge, that is the left table's number column will merge on the right table's number column. And here we can see the output. Now here we how is equal to right, that is all from the right table will be get joined to the left table, that is common from the first table. So here is the output. Now we are entering into the use of matplotlib library in Python. So let's we are going to do these operations on another data frame. So let's upload it first, that is the empty cars. So where is the data frame? Here. Now let's save it in a empty cars data frame, and now here we can see it, all that features and the records. Now we have to import the pandas package to do the basic operations and and use the matplotlib library. As we have imported it at the very first beginning of the notebook, we are not importing it again. Now we are importing the matplotlib pyplot, that is Python plot library. So import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. PLT is the alias name. Now we have to create a scatter plot with MPG and HP columns by providing X label and Y label. So we are specifying the x-axis as empty cards.mpg column, y-axis as empty cards.hp column. Now we have to plot a scatter plot. So plt.scatter x comma y, we are specifying the both axes. plt.x label, that will, it will label the x-axis, and plt.y label, it will label the annotate the y-axis. And if we run this, we will get the scatter plot corresponding to the values, and so we can see that they are the labels mpg and hp. Now we have to change the if we want to change the color of the scatter plot. So we can simply just specify the color argument as red, and it will change the color. We can see here is result. Now we have to create a cross tab for the cylinder column as count. A cross tabulation is a 2 or more dimensional table that records the number of respondents that have the specific characteristic described in the cells of the table. So we are specifying empty cast cylinder, again cylinder, to specify the cross tab for cylinder and column as count. We can see the output here, pd.crosstab. And now we can see here another way to create a cross tab, that is we are specifying the cross tab into this variable here, and ct.plot.bar stacked is equal to true, and it will stack all the values, and plt.legend title will be mark. That will create a legend like this that will annotate the different bars and all, and like this we can show it. Now we have been asked to create a cross tab for cylinder and AM as CT2 and create a bar plot. So we are specifying the cross tab here and plotting the bar plot like before. Now we have to create group by to visualize the cell column to visualize the MPG and HP in a bar chart. So we are we can see the corresponding we are group using the group by cylinder and the columns that we need to use, and the sum function. And now we are plotting the bar. We are specifying the color as blue in general, and we are using plot.show. We can see that there is the visualization of the bar chart. And now we have been asked to create a pie chart for the cell count. Pie chart, we are creating the pie chart, empty card cylinder labels. We are labeling each what we can say, each part of the pie chart as we are labeling as per the index, and we are using plot.show. So here we can see the pie chart along with the labels, and we are asked to create a histogram for MPG column. So we are using the .hist function for the MPG column here, and we can see that the histogram and how it is varying for the different values of MPG column. So that is all about the data manipulation and visualization using Python. We have started from the very basics of the pandas libraries, then we have covered the advanced pandas library. At last we have created the visualizations and all using all the knowledge we gained through this hands-on training come guided assignment. Special thank you to NAI for providing us with the opportunity in the virtual internship program to learn so much, along with applying the knowledge for betterment of ourselves and sharpening our skills and making us industry ready. Thank you so much. And if you have any doubt, don't hesitate and ask it out in the comment section. I will make sure to reply to it as soon as possible. Thank you. And the corresponding code of the notebook is uploaded in GitHub. I will provide the corresponding link in the description.